Hello and welcome to Proudly We Served. Today we've got some great information for you. Actually, it's a kind of a follow-up from our last program. With me today is my co-host, Al Bledsoe. Al, tell them a little bit about what you do.
I'm involved with the Wayne County Veterans Council, and I'm also involved with Vietnam Veterans of America, Post 777, and of course Veterans of Foreign War 1108. I attend all those meetings and try to push the veteran community forward as much as possible.
All right. And at the request of a lot of folks, based on our last program, we have Pete McDaniel. And Pete?
Yes. Pete McDaniel, Wayne County Veterans Service Officer.
Okay, and that's saying a lot, and that short title, but the man covers a lot of territory, and we'll be talking a bit about that this morning. Last month on our program, Pete, we did cover a lot of territory.
Yeah, we did. We got a good start.
And got a lot of good feedback, information that just a lot of people just did not know. And so I promised them that, we had already connected about bringing you back and just kind of doing some follow-up and talk about some other things that weren't talked about in the previous program. So with that in mind, let's start with just telling them a little bit about the service that you provide here in Wayne County.
Well, like we talked last month, the Wayne County Veterans Service Officer primary function is to basically help the Wayne County area veterans and all veterans passing through our community get needed assistance, get some type of aid and attendance for the elderly, apply for benefits, find out the information about their education and schooling entitlements, point them in directions for VA home loans, just a multitude of different benefits that veterans have through the federal government.
Yeah. FYI, we are all veterans up
Yes.
here, right? And Al, I know you've used the veteran system in Richmond, Wayne County, and the system there in Ohio. Any comments in terms of how you've benefited from that?
I think here lately, Dr. Mills is my doctor, and here lately they've just raised their level of service a lot. If you call for an appointment, you can schedule that appointment, but if you have a question in between time, the nurse is always good about calling you back. If you have to go to Dayton, that's a little bit off, but it's something that you just have to do. But I would say the level of service that they're doing here in Richmond has elevated a lot just in the last 6-8 months. I'm anxious, and that's the question I've got for Pete, when the new clinic, do they have a final opening date yet?
Well, the specific opening date, they had it nailed down for the first of this year. And as all construction people are familiar with, there's a punch list that you have to be completed after the final project is done. They went through the punch list. Basically, the little odd and end stuff that need to be tweaked is going to be a little more, so we're looking at within the next several months is what I've told. Hopefully by the beginning of March, end of March, right in that time frame is when everything should be completed and ready
Surely
to go.
by 1 April, then they'll have all of that in
I would
operation.
like to hope so. Like I said, a lot of variables in it, weather, scheduling with the construction workers. There's a lot plays into it, not necessarily some things the VA can control, some things are out of their span of control, so you just have to wait and get it done.
Well, the clinic here in town does such a good job. Boy, when they get the space and the extra doctor, the extra nurses, boy, it's hard telling. I was there yesterday and the parking lot was full. But boy, they get the job done, and it looked like people were ushering in and out and getting problems solved, and it just really looked like it was really moving along.
Have you seen that new facility? I mean, just the exterior part. Man, they have done a marvelous job with that.
They have, and they have also done a nice job on the interior
of the conference
as well.
room section and all of that. And I mean, it's just looking good.
It is.
Did they come up with something yet for the front of the building? Rod Weiss had asked me early on.
For the sign?
They wanted to put a rock down or something.
Or signage or something.
It's a statement about veterans in general.
Right.
I don't know whether anybody's ever come up with that. But the statement that we have on our program is not a bad statement to use. Maybe a little bit wordy, but that's just a suggestion.
And it might be something that maybe as some of the Wayne County veterans groups
Sure.
We can solicit funds and donations and maybe head in that direction to put our own personal
Good
touch to
idea,
it.
guys.
Yeah,
Good
I think
idea.
people are really anxious to see it open simply because these people now they do really an incredible job.
They do. They do.
I'm a hard person to tweak anyway, and they really, I mean, they really
I get
show
the
me a lot of
service.
service, and,
Yeah.
of course I appreciate all that
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah.
they're doing well.
So Pete,
good.
so I'm a veteran. I've just been discharged or retired or whatever, and I live in the county here. And I come to you. I hear about your office, and I come to you and I say, "Here I am. Tell me what I got."
Okay, well, as a newly discharged veteran, the DOD is, in the military is actually very proactive on trying to get veterans squared away with all the information prior to the discharge that they need, as far as benefits. All of them pretty much have VA benefits reps on basis, or the veterans have access to them now. That if they do have some issues with some type of injuries that they sustained, any type of lingering issues that haven't quite been resolved as their active duty comes to an end,
Right.
They give them the avenues as soon as they get out there. Once all that is complete and they're satisfied with their discharge and they have a good direction as far as what already they have been entitled to while on active duty. Once they come to my office, then we can sit down. We can talk about the educational benefits. We can, I can kind of give them some information about home loans for veterans. I'll give them a quick description of our state benefits and direct them to that website if they have computer access and their computer have some computer skills where they can navigate through that, because the state has a lot of good benefits for veterans as well. There's two different sets. We have federal benefits and state benefits. So I always try to make sure that they're aware of that.
Probably one of the most important things would be, Pete, can you help me get a job?
Can I help you get a job? Well, I will tell you, I have helped several veterans get a job. I have a small network of people that I keep in contact with. There's several businesses here in town that have said, hey, you get a veteran comes in, he's needing a break, he's needing a hand, give us a holler. And I have done that, and I have steered a couple of veterans, and they have been employed. It's worked out quite well. So it just depends. If
Well, I know nationally there are some companies that are giving special considerations to veterans.
Since I retired from the carpet business, I basically went to work for Tom Raper, and they're a very veteran-friendly company. And even with the new takeover person, Camping World, they are very veteran-friendly, and it's really going to be good because you can actually work and do your thing that you want to do when you're visiting people or any of that stuff, and they actually will. If you're off the clock, you're really on the clock as long as you're doing community service. They're really big in that, so that's going to be a big asset.
Right, and we also have the Work One program.
Yeah.
Right.
I keep in contact with Brian Aria, and he's pretty proactive on he handles the veterans.
Right.
He does a really good job. So like I said, there's different avenues there as far as already establishes a route for veterans to go. We contact Work One, they in return show them, give them resume writing classes and steer them towards jobs that
good.
they're informed about.
Oh, that's great. That's great. You mentioned education. How does that work?
As far as
Do you help them
different,
sign up or apply? Or?
as far as the state benefits, that's pretty much covered through the state website.
Okay.
I'll either print the form off for them, I'll point them in the direction of the form, they can fill it out online.
Yeah.
And that way the dependents of the veteran can complete these forms, and they're entitled to educational benefits for dependents within the state.
Yeah.
When it comes to the actual veterans, there's the voc rehab, there's several different educational benefits that they're entitled to.
Right.
Each case is kind of different. If it's your standard veteran and he's just wanting to use some of his educational benefits, Kimberly Butts out of Ivy Tech is very proactive. We have Patrick out here at IU East. I have different individuals that I will steer them to within that group set that will help them say, okay, these are your options that we can do for you.
Do you see a lot of younger veterans coming in to use your service and signing up, if that's the right word to use?
Well, I tell you, to be quite honest with you, the majority of the veterans I see right now is our Vietnam era veterans. I do see the younger veterans coming in. But it's what I've come down to is pretty much goes back to what we talked about before. When you're younger, you don't quite feel your aches and pains, and you're not really worried about your educations. Some are, but for the most part, as we start getting older, then we start saying, "Oh, I got to start utilizing these medical benefits." And then some veterans are saying, "Well, you know what?
We're not getting older; we're maturing."
That's what we can call it. That's right up there with that wisdom statement.
Yeah. Going back to the level of service, which I really feel like this clinic in town has good service. A friend of mine, to show you how good their service is, of course he goes to here in town and he goes to Dayton, but his operation is actually going to be done at Wright Pat by some of the best surgeons in the country. And that's just, to me, that's just absolutely amazing that they just scale it up that way instead of going to the Cleveland. He had a choice of Cleveland Clinic if he wanted to, for crying out loud, but he chose Wright Pat, and instead of that. But that just shows you the level of services there. All you got to do is ask for it, and I think sometimes that's maybe what the problem is. With the younger guys, maybe it's right. They just don't ask. They just assume life. When you're 40 years old, nothing bothers you. So, like you said, they don't come visit you.
And they're all informed. When the veterans, now nowadays veterans, when they get out, they're entitled to 5 years of medical service through the VA.
Is that right?
Well, just for any issues that may. And
that's anything.
Anything.
Right. They can come out here and register at our CBOC, and they can get signed up, and the VA will say, you know what, you have any issues, I would say it's very beneficial for the issues with PTSD or something that comes on later on, because some of these issues don't materialize until a couple, 3 years after service.
Yes.
And it gives them an avenue to say, hey, let me go talk to somebody. We have programs out here at Centerstone where there's a program through the federal government where they can get 12 free sessions.
Oh, wow.
Out there if they're having some problems about things. They need to talk to somebody. They want to get in some group counseling or some group therapy. And that's an option for them as well. And like I said, it's just pretty much there's a very wide area of benefits that veterans can utilize depending on what particular issues they might be having at that time.
You know, I was thinking also in terms of on the education side, veterans, military personnel usually come out with some unique skills.
Certainly.
Because, I mean, listen, we do jobs that other people just don't do, right? But some of those skills can be transferred into the civilian sector, So I'm wondering, is there a way to help someone assess that? How does your particular military occupational specialty translate into the civilian community?
Right now on that particular issue, the ones that do a real good job with a little bit of details into your MOS, your job descriptions, or whatever your prior experiences are to military as far as your job duties, is work one. And they do. They'll take and they'll see what the veteran, what his high points are. They'll see what his assets that he could possibly bring to a potential employer and say, hey, I have Al here. He's this is what he did in the military. These are the awards he's got. These are the educational certifications that he's acquired to this point. I think he might be a good fit for you. Would you like to interview him?
Well, one of the things I've heard from businesses is the military personnel that they hire have more of a well-rounded concept of how things work. It's not just their job, because in the military, guys, you don't just do your job, you end up getting connected with all the things around you in some way, And so that's a benefit to businesses when people come into their, into their employ, that they have this vast knowledge of not just their job, but everything that, So it makes you more valuable, is what I'm saying.
Well, when you're in the world out there, when you're working for a company, the older veterans, I'm going to say our age bracket, you have more multitask. You can
Me and you, not him.
Not him. Pete's a young guy. Pete's a young guy.
Include me with you guys.
Our generation is more of a multitasking, so you find yourself when you actually go out in the world, if you will, and get a job instead of being your own boss. That's the hardest thing to contend with. Is now you take orders from somebody. But once you get past that, it's quite easy to a multitask session, and it's pretty easy to keep up with anybody and everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
Once you learn what your groove is, and then you just simply do it. So.
Right.
But the younger guys, I can see a huge benefit with employment and things like that if they would just use those.
Oh yeah, our militaries nowadays they're high tech. They have a lot of technology that can be applied out in the civilian world,
yeah.
and they do get a lot of good skills.
Yes.
And they also get the soft skills that employers talk about now. They just can't find. You know, people coming to work on time, people doing a Monday through a Friday, not taking off Friday or Monday. It's just the veteran has that. He has them soft skills because it's not an optional thing when you're in the military.
Yeah.
You to be where you're to be, and you be early.
Yeah.
And you go home when you're done, and that's pretty much the way it is. And they got that that work ethic. They know how to follow directions. There's a lot of benefits to hiring veterans that, not that it's not out in the members in society that haven't been in the military. It's just more finely tuned within your veterans
Exactly.
that, hey,
Right.
this is the real deal here. We follow directions. We do like we're told, because if not, bad things can happen. It's because of what the job entails.
Right.
I'm a member, of course, of the service clubs here in town, and we've noticed kind of a decline in younger ones, if you will, coming in as a membership and things like that. That kind of fits with just that generation, I guess. They're just not ready to settle down or ready to do something like that, because it's a commitment. I mean, if you're working in the clubs, it's a commitment to what we do anyway, is visit people or call people, or and he's really good about it. So maybe they're not ready for that commitment to sit and talk with an elderly World War II guy or something. But that's certainly something that we need to really work on too, is getting the younger guy committed.
That's right.
Because the generation we're in is passing.
Yeah, yeah. Which brings me to another area that I want to touch on.
Nursing homes?
Well, no, you know now that's an area that is available for. Is that not right? Assistance to your office.
Correct. Yes, it is.
Wow.
Like we talked about last month. I'm sorry. We had the aid in attendance, and there's a. I would encourage anybody that has a elderly over 65. Veteran in their family, if they are in a nursing home or in an assisted living facility, it's very important that maybe you take a look at their service and contact my office and maybe say, hey, Aunt Mabel or Grandpa's having a hard time getting his bills and staying in this facility. They're about ready to bump him out because he can't afford the monthly cost.
Wow.
There's benefits out there through the VA that they say, hey, if a veteran is to the point where he's homebound or he needs the aid and attendance of another individual, and be it assisted living or a nursing home, we have pensions for that. We don't want our veterans not to be taken care of. So the VA and the federal government has been very proactive, as they understand we have an aging population now. Veterans, they need help.
So if we're in the nursing home and like we're visiting people, or even the hospital, and maybe they're going from Reed or someplace into let's say Golden Rule or whatever, Golden Living, those people, if they're having trouble or issues getting that bill paid, they could actually call you and you could see what they could do.
For future bills, correct, yes. Yeah. The past bills, what has happened basically. The bill has been incurred, and they say, hey, you know what, if you would have applied, maybe this would be something we could do, but we might not be able to help you from today backwards, but from today forwards, as soon as we sign the paperwork and get it submitted, we can get you in this if you can qualify.
So we need to get the information out.
We need to get that information out. I did not know
yesterday.
Yeah.
That would just basically be, hey, if you got a family member that's elderly and they need the aid and attendance or of somebody, look into their veteran status. This goes for dependents as well, the wives, the widows. They could qualify for certain benefits. The monetary limits are a lot different for widows, because once again, they were not the veteran, but they was the widow of the veteran, the dependent of the veteran, so there is something there for them.
Oh, boy, that's
it is not as much as the veterans, just because of what it is, but there is certain benefits out there for the widow.
When they're in a nursing home, like I've talked to them before, and some of the biggest things that concern them is those bills, getting those bills paid somehow.
Sure.
I did not know that they could do that.
Afraid of losing their homes and all that, and everything that they've got.
Make sure that gets out to people.
Right.
That's a huge,
like
huge
I said,
benefit.
It's all income based, remember. But like I said, it never hurts to talk to me, see where we're at.
Wow.
There's monetary limits. If they got they're a millionaire, of course, they're not going to qualify. But once again, and I have had them, individuals in my office that are very well off that was requesting benefits, and I would love to say, I can help you, but this is a benefit for limited income. It's a special pension. It's a special monthly pension.
Right.
And it was only developed to help the veterans in need.
Right.
Well, sometimes I think, or I see anyway when I'm visiting people, sometimes they're kind of stressed out over it, but the spouse is more worried about it than he is maybe. And that's why, boy, that's just an excellent benefit. I'll pass that along. I did not know that. It
is hard on a lot of dependents. We have some of our elderly veterans that are in nursing homes or are in the hospital, and it's up to their dependents, their wives, to try to get stuff going to get them taken care of.
That's huge.
So tell them to call my office, and I can hopefully steer them in the right direction to where we can get them some type of assistance.
Okay.
And at the VA level or here at the state level.
Sure.
Well, you know, prayerfully, if they are veterans, even if they're at Reed or Miami Valley, wherever they may be, they're already receiving some kind of help from VA, right? I mean,
well, no.
No?
Just remember, bear in mind, the VA is not an insurance provider.
Right.
They are a medical provider.
Okay.
Now, for some reason, they can't provide you with the medical, or you have some type of an emergency where you're not near a VA hospital or clinic or something where you can be seen as a life-threatening event. Yeah. Then you could possibly qualify for them to handle that bill through the local provider that cares for that individual. Say if you just tripped and fell off here and you broke your leg and we had to take you out to the hospital by an ambulance and this and that, can you come out and say, all right, VA, I had to go to Reed, will you pay this bill for me? More than likely, they're not going to. They're going to say, look, it wasn't a life-threatening event. You know, you did fall, you did this. We're sorry. This isn't necessarily covered. We're not going to pay a $40,000 medical bill because then we would have no money to run our own operations, kind of type deal. Now, say Al fell down of a heart attack, went into cardiac arrest. We call it an ALS unit, and we had to come take you to the hospital. Now, that falls into a different category because that is a life-threatening event.
Gotcha.
And depending on your disability and your benefits, it would be covered.
I know from experience because I've had that experience, and I think I've shared that with you actually. As long as they fill out a voucher to the clinic here, if you call them and say, look, or somebody calls them and say, look, this dude just had a stroke or something and we got to get him to the hospital, they fill out a voucher. Reed knows that. If you're taking him to Reed or wherever you're taking him, Reed knows that. So at that point, because it is an emergency, they'll assume those bills. That's the way they
like
do
I said,
it. It took a while to get it sorted out, but eventually they got it paid.
It is a path of, it doesn't come easy.
Right.
It is
it's a process.
You have to be proactive.
It's a process.
And like I tell a lot of veterans, I actually just told one this morning, only you know your own situation. You know what's due, you know what this is, you know what bill's coming in. Try to be very proactive with the VA, make the calls, take the time out to read what the statement that they send you.
Right.
Find out who you need to speak with, if it's in billing, if it's in patient care. Find out what's going on and how it all works, and just be proactive and stay on top of it.
Sure.
Because if an outside provider bills the VA, they don't necessarily get billed quick enough or get reimbursed fast enough. You worry about they will in return call you and say, hey, you know, this is your bill still, and we're still not getting paid. It's not that the VA is not necessarily going to pay. It's that it could be sitting caught up in a system on somebody's desk, and it takes time to work through, and they don't see the priority because nobody sent them a letter saying, hey, we're not going to wait past 30 days. We want the money now, or we're going to send this individual on to a bill collector.
Well, healthcare in general right now is sensitive because you just really you don't know what direction to take because you've got the VA, but then when you're on Social Security and then you got benefits there, and then if you use the VA only, and that was another question I'm coming around to is it beneficial, do you think, to have the VA like they really, I feel like, take good care of what my needs are? Should I have another doctor that's at Reed or somebody like that in case something really comes up and I can't get a hold of anybody?
That kind of comes down to a personal preference type thing. Individuals, and I've actually had people pose the same questions in my office about, hey, can I get a local doctor here to see me on my my everyday stuff that I just want to go see a doctor for and not necessarily utilize the VA, or should I just stay all VA? And it comes down to a choice. It's nice having a local provider that you can go to. You can call up and say, "Hey, can you call me in a prescription?" Because you can't, they don't just call you something. You have to. We have a process, and we have a process for a reason. So there's steps that we have to take.
We got a few minutes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just death burial benefits. Okay, how does one's spouse apply for that? Do they come to you?
Depending on what if it was 100% veteran, there's some special dependency forms that we had to fill out for that dependent of that veteran to get her pension, so her to assume a portion of his pension. If it's just your average veteran, they just come into my office. We have a couple key forms that we fill out if they're requesting a headstone or a foot medallion or a marker or some type of something like that, and for their federal benefits. And remember, we talked last week, we also have state benefits. The state, the local Wayne County gives $200 towards veterans burials as well.
Okay.
So they just need to come to my office.
That's important information.
I want to get that out there.
Yeah, that's important.
Like you said, we are getting more mature.
Yeah. We start worrying about those things.
Well, Pete, I'm so glad you were able to come back. And for those who didn't hear last time, where are you located? What are your hours of operation? How did he get a hold of you?
I'm in the Wayne County Annex building right across the street from the courthouse where your auditors and you pay your property taxes at. You can come see me pretty much any morning, Monday through Friday, between 8 to 12 and right into 1 area. I stay past 12. I always advise people to give me a call before you come down, because just like now, I do get called out to do interviews or to go see a veteran in a nursing home. So it's always best to call my office to make sure that I don't have a scheduled appointment and that I am going to be there.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to Proudly Be Served. Al, thank you, brother. Thank you. And Pete.
Good to be here today.
And,
thank you.
This probably won't be the last time we have you back, because there's stuff always coming down the pipe about veterans and information for veterans.
Just a wealth of information.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right. So thank you, folks. See you next time. Bye-bye.